Like Simon said, my name is Mel Walker and I run the Zespri Crop Protection Program. Those of you who are unfamiliar with this, it is a standard or a program under which all inputs that go on an orchard that wishes to supply Zespri kiwifruit must sit. So all inputs on an orchard need to be approved through this standard. The work that Elaine is doing, and I guess as an industry, as a wider community that we're doing, all falls down into our long-term goal, which is how we manage BMSB and these other pests long-term. Our Zespri Crop Protection Program sits inside the standard, and it outlines for our growers the products that they can apply to ensure that the timing is right so the food is not only safe, but they are managing their pest and disease to the best of the ability according to the product that they're using. Not just from a timing perspective, but how many times a product can be applied throughout the season, ensuring that we are adhering to IPM where we can, that product is safe, we are sustainable, that it covers all of our bases to ensure that the end product that our consumer receives, they are happy with and our markets are happy with it. This is the kind of thing that we are trying to understand where we can fit our control methods so that our growers know what they can do to deal with these pests and diseases. So for BMSB, what can we do? Not a lot. We mentioned before that chemical control is not a long-term option, but we've been very fortunate that for years and years we have tried to incorporate programs that allow our grower to consider what else they're doing on their orchard. So not just what product you're applying, but why you are applying it, how you're applying it, what other methods of control you might be implementing to ensure you're managing that pest and disease as best as possible. We have now started to include these in our program to remind growers that there are certain times of year that they can actually do something else other than chemical control to manage their pest and disease. So we're already ensuring that our industry is aware of these alternative methods and that it's not just going to focus on a chemical control option. We do know that in a lab, certain chemicals have a pretty good efficacy rate at killing BMSB. A lot of work has been done to understand from these chemicals what is possibly the best option for use in New Zealand as a whole. And of those, there's two products. One is bifenthrin and one is permethrin. These are synthetic pyrethroids. In a lab, they're not so bad, but on the orchard, they don't really have that greater effect anyway. I think some of the stuff is maybe 50%, especially the orchards that we are using these kinds of products in Italy. Let's say we could use them on an orchard. The problem is the timing. We need to apply it to fruit because that's when BMSB is around. And if it's applied to fruit, it's very likely there's going to be residues. It's very likely those residues will be above maximum residue limits and we cannot export it. If it happens that those residues are not above maximum residue limits, we have a lot of EU customers that don't want that fruit. Whether or not we can show that it's safe, they still don't want it. So we do know that actively promoting chemical control is not a long-term strategy. It is not sustainable, it doesn't have enough benefit. And for our industry as a whole, it's something we want to avoid focusing on and looking what our alternative methods are. So, how can we ensure we know that our growers are aware in advance what they can be doing to prepare themselves? Including the cultural control options is brilliant, but as Elaine has mentioned, being very specific is important. If a grower gets certain things like this wrong, like the timing of when they put the net sides down, it doesn't work. And we really want to ensure that those growers that are doing these alternative controls are doing them properly so they're encouraged to keep doing them. It's the same when we try to use biological controls or alternative methods of chemistry. If they're not done right, growers lose faith, they don't want to do it and they want to use something else. And chemistry is always easy to revert back to, but it won't provide us with something that is safe and sustainable in the long term. Ensuring that we have this kind of stuff included is very important. It makes sure that we have something that is sustainable, of course, but also it's all about education, making sure that those that are on orchard know what they're looking for, that we are utilising all of the eyes that are out in our industry. I know that we've mentioned community and the importance of that, but it is a little bit surprising how many growers or people that are visiting orchards actually don't really know what they're looking for and they don't know where to look. It's not just for our biosecurity pests, but we're realising that a lot of the pests we deal with in an industry, no one really knows what they're looking for. So focusing on education is the first thing I think that it's really important that we start with. And then from our R&D, we can make sure that, hey, we can talk about the daylight hours, that we know that there is a time of year that is the best time to be putting the size of your net down. Or we can include the things like the overwintering traps. But at this stage, chemical control is not a long-term option. We need to make sure that our growers are accepting of cultural control methods.